everyone, welcome to Mr. Teach Film Preach, and if you're a film lover like I am and you learn from films as much as I do, then you are in the right place. And if you're in the right place, click like down below and subscribe to my channel for more content. Also, let me know, what did you think of Air, Courting a Legend, the new Ben Affleck directed film starring Matt Damon? Were you anticipating this film? Were you excited? I would love to hear your thoughts and comments down below, and while you're down there, click like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit that bell button to notify you when I release more videos. Today we're talking about the 2023 comedy sports drama film Air, directed by Ben Affleck, starring Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Chris Messina, Viola Davis, Chris Tucker. The film follows the history of Nike shoe salesman Sonny Vaccaro and how he helped Nike in the pursuit of signing the greatest athlete in the sport of basketball of all time,
Michael Jordan.
Your motor
and signed one of the biggest sports franchise commerce deals in sports history ever. First things first, Ben Affleck is back in full effect in the directing chair, and it feels like a return to him. And it was nice to see him doing something that was a little different, a drama, but also a comedy. In a lot of ways, this movie is really quite funny. I laughed out loud bunch of different times, especially with Matt Damon and Chris Messina. Matt Damon does a great job as Sonny Vaccaro. He is really that everyday man, and he can transform himself into these roles where he plays like the everyday kind of guy. Ben Affleck was hilarious as Phil Knight. I mean, doesn't look anything like Phil Knight, but I loved his style and the way they chose to portray Phil Knight in this film. I thought was great. Jason Bateman was awesome, of course, as per always.
You would have to have a pretty compelling pitch.
I can tell him the one thing the other companies can't compete with. Our basketball division is terrible.
I do not love it.
Chris Tucker was great as Howard Knight. I love that Chris Tucker just shows up once every couple of years in these big, massive directed movies with these huge directors and just knocks it out of the park every time he's in it.
What's a Converse?
NBA All-Star shoe.
I think personally the two standout performances are Chris Messina as David Falk, the talent agent for the Jordan family, for Michael Jordan, and he was hilarious. He has some scene-stealing moments, but of course, the greatest, the GOAT, the best of all time, Viola Davis as Dolores Jordan, playing Michael Jordan's mother. And when Michael Jordan was approached about this movie, Ben Affleck said the only person he requested to even consider playing his mother was Viola Davis, and they got her. And of course, she knocks it out of the park with an amazing performance.
A shoe is just a shoe.
until my son steps into it.
Star-studded cast. Every single person is great, suits their role, does their job. Great dialogue in this movie, the back and forth, the conversations that happen. Yes, it's not an exciting story. It's not the best and most interesting thing in the world. It is a story about Nike and shoes and basketball. But why it's so great is because it focuses on the characters as they pursue something great. And that's why it's such an impactful and different story. It doesn't focus on Michael Jordan. Yes, he's in the movie, but you never really get to see his face. You don't really hear him more than like one or two lines throughout the movie. It is focused on the sales team people behind Nike, the decisions that they went through to make this historic deal with Nike and Michael Jordan to create the Air Jordan sneaker. This was such an incredible, well-told story, well-written script. The fact that it was written by Alex Convery, who this is his first credit, his first IMDb credit, writing credit, is the movie Air. Like, that is amazing. So you got to give him props. I'm so glad because his script was on the blacklist, and that is awesome as a writer. The directing was really great. Ben Affleck made us feel like we were stuck in 1984. There's even an opening 3-minute montage. I can't even imagine how much money they spent on the music and the property rights and the product placement rights and stuff like that, because it was just a montage of the mid-80s and it was phenomenal. I got the tone of the movie. I thought it was awesome. A lot of the directing style and things that Ben Affleck did, it's really not that cinematic of a story, but there are times where there are cinematic moments in this story, in the revealing of the courting of Michael Jordan. And I thought Ben Affleck handled that balance extremely well. The story is pretty straightforward, and there's not a lot of twists and turns because we know, unless you've never known what an Air Jordan sneaker is, you know that Nike and Michael Jordan make a deal. So we know the story already, so it takes away some of the suspense. Even in the movie, they comment on how it's not about the destination. It's not about ultimately the final product. It's about the journey that gets us there. But watching Sonny Vaccaro and Rob Strasser and Phil Knight and all of them try and figure out a way to court the biggest legend of all time was extremely compelling.
Oh man, here we go.
I'm not a sneaker guy, I'm not an NBA guy, and they made this movie interesting to me, and I think that, again, is a really high achievement. It was only an hour and 52-minute film. It ran really nicely. The tone was funny and hilarious, but also inspiring, heartbreaking, but also redeeming, and I just thought it flowed nicely. Is this movie Moneyball?
Nope.
No, not even close. Moneyball is a much better paced movie, a much better acted film in a lot of ways, a lot more interesting. And you can tell that Ben Affleck took a lot of beats or a lot of inspiration from Moneyball and infused it in this film, which was very smart of him. But Moneyball definitely is a step above this film. The soundtrack is killer. Like, all the big hits from the early 80s are definitely in this film. It was thoroughly entertaining from start to finish. I was invested in these characters, especially Sonny. The only downfall for me in this film is that it's not a really extremely interesting topic, and it's not very deep or compelling. It's a straightforward, true story inspired sports drama. And if that's what you want and that's what you're looking for, great, but don't expect anything more. Where I thought Moneyball had a lot more deeper, in-depth themes behind it, a lot more to say than just simply to change the game of baseball, relationships and father and daughter. And there's a little bit of that in Air, but definitely not as much. So if I'm looking at the two films and I'm giving Moneyball like an A, I don't think that Air is quite at that level. Moneyball is just such a well-polished film, and this feels a bit rougher, a bit more straightforward, and a bit more generic and crowd-pleasing than maybe what Moneyball is. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's well made, they're pretty well written, they're well executed, and you can't ask much for more than that. They don't make a lot of movies like this anymore. You need big star power behind these sort of biopic films, because otherwise they could be really schlocky, terrible films. So ultimately, what could have been a boring, predictable, run-of-the-mill sports drama actually turned out to be a skillfully crafted, fun, crowd-pleasing movie. The filmmaking and the acting attest to this movie exceeding expectations, and it sure did. Go check it out in the theaters. It is worth it on the big screen. I'm gonna go ahead and give Air, Courting a Legend, an A-. What did you think of Air? Did you love this movie? Is Ben Affleck back, ready to return into the director's chair all over again? I would love to hear your thoughts and comments down below, and click that like button and subscribe. Thank you so much for checking out Mr. Teach Film Preach. Come back and check out some other videos like Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, John Wick Chapter 4. Thank you so much, everyone. Come back and check out some other videos, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. Stay focused, stay awesome, and as always, let's get taught.